Welcome to this course on public contracting. The topic I will introduce you today is the basics of incentive theory and its application to regulation. This theoretical framework has been developed in the 70s by economists such as Baron Myerson, Laffont, Tirole, and many others. The starting point of the theory is to consider the consequences of relaxing one assumption compared to the general equilibrium model, that is symmetric information. By making the assumption that economic actors have private informations, identity of the economic actors matters, and new problems arise. Problems that arise because of asymmetric information are pervasive and affect many economic relationships. They are important also for public contracts and the way they should be regulated. So what are those problems? The first one is what we call adverse selection. This is a situation that arises as soon as there is an uncertainty concerning the quality of a person or concerning the quality of a good before a contract is signed. Imagine that you are applying to work in my company. I am the CEO and I am interviewing you. I know who you are. Obviously, I've got your curriculum, but I would like to know more about you beside what is written in your CV. Are you a talented person? Are you motivated? Do you plan to invest and to stay for a long time in our company? You know the answers, I don't. And those elements are important for me in order to choose the right candidate. This is problematic for an employer-employee relationship, but not only. You find exactly the same problem for insurance contracts, for the manager-shareholders relationship, and so on. Why is adverse selection an important issue? Because if you do not find any solution to these problems, markets might partly close. This is just because actors that are talented cannot show who they are and they leave the market. This point has been well demonstrated by the famous article, The Market for Lemons, that has been written in 1970 by George Akerlof, where he shows how lemons, bad second-hand cars, are pushing outside of the market sellers of good quality second-hand cars. In the specific case of regulation, adverse selection problems refer to the question of the selection of the firm or the operator that will provide the public services. If you are a government and you want to contract out for the provision of a public services, several, usually private operators, might be candidates. How do you select the best one? The second problem that arises because of asymmetric information is what we call moral hazard. After the contract has been signed, the principal, the government, might face hidden action or hidden information problems. Again, think of insurance contracts, labor contracts, moral hazard problems are always present. Let's come back to my previous example. If I chose you and now you are my employee and you are working in my firms, you are working late at your office. How can I be sure that you are working and not preparing your holidays surfing on the web? If full control is impossible or too costly, and I do not observe your effort level, then finding a way to give you right incentives might be a solution for me. In the specific case of regulations, the government would like, once a firm is selected to provide the public services, that these firms make its best effort to reduce costs and increase quality. But the regulator does not observe the type of the firm. Is it an efficient firm or an inefficient one? And also the government is not observing a level of efforts. How to deal with those problems? So the incentive theory postulates that the way to deal with those problems is to think about the contracts. The contract will help to make actors reveal their information. For example, efficient firms will declare their type and will declare they are efficient. An inefficient firm will declare that they are inefficient. And the contract will help also to make actors change their behavior. Efficient firms will perform. So how can the contract achieve this result? The theory suggests that a menu of contracts might be a way to deal with those issues. Some contracts will transfer a large part of the risk to the agent, conditioning their revenues to key performance indicators. Some others will not, providing fixed revenues to the agent. This will help to disentangle between agent types. Why? Because talented agents will reveal their information by selecting the contract that is conditioning their revenues to key performance indicators. And this will also help to provide them right incentives. But this will give rise to what we call the rent extraction efficiency trade-off. So let me illustrate this trade-off in the specific case of regulation. Consider a situation in which the regulator is uncertain about the firm's true underlying cost. He cannot observe the level of effort that is made by the firm. And let's consider that the regulator can nevertheless monitor accurately the firm's realized cost ex post in regulatory hearings or through audits. So there are two regulatory mechanisms or two kinds of contracts that can be seen as polar contracts, what we call a price cap and a cost-plus regulation. So the first regulatory mechanism is price cap. Let me explain. With a price cap, the regulator sets a price that is not evolving during a fixed period. So usually you've got a 3 to 5 years periodic review, and then adjust this price for exogenous change that are driving costs. So the regulator doesn't need and doesn't want to know about the cost of the regulated firm. One basic formula often used for price cap regulation is what we call RPI minus X, meaning that the maximum price the company is allowed to charge is going up with the retail price index minus a productivity improvement factor X. What is the advantage of a price cap? The main advantage is that it gives to the regulated firm strong incentives for cost reduction and innovation. As soon as the production cost of the regulated firm is below the cap, this translates into profit for the firm. What are the main drawbacks now of a price cap? Well, the first big drawback is quality may suffer. Quality is often non-contractable and thus difficult to check by the regulator, and the firm might look for reducing costs with the consequences of decreasing the quality level. The second problem is that often prices exceed cost on average. It means that consumers, by the end of the day, may pay a lower price for the service they receive compared to other forms of regulation. But because firms are making profits, it might be politically difficult to sustain for the regulator. So you see that while a price cap mechanism does well from the perspective of providing incentives to reduce costs, it is potentially very poor at rent extraction because prices may be too high relative to the firm's true cost. Now, the second polar regulatory mechanism is what we call cost-plus. With the cost-plus regulation, the firm is compensating the firm for its costs of production plus a fixed margin. So what are the advantages of this very simple mechanism? Prices stay connected to cost by definition. So there is no disconnection between price and cost like with a price cap. Quality is assured because there is no incentive for the firms to underinvest to reduce production costs. And so you are quite sure that the quality will be at the rendezvous without any problem. What are the drawbacks of a cost plus? The first drawback is that there is a likelihood of excessive investment. The firm knows she will be reimbursed. The second drawback is that cost plus provides weak incentives for productivity improvement. The margin is fixed. So you see that if a cost plus regulation is good at solving the rent extraction problems, there is no rent left to the firm in the form of excess profit with a cost plus. This mechanism does not provide any incentive for the management to exert optimal, indeed any, efforts to reduce costs. By the end, consumers might pay a higher price compared to a price cap regulation situation. So there is a rent extraction efficiency trade-off. You cannot give incentive to the firm in order for her to reduce its costs and at the same time extract a rent coming from the fact that this firm has private information. So to conclude, the incentive theory is a very important tool for regulation. It helps us to understand how the way contracts are framed and prices are set up might influence regulated firms. It also helps to understand more broadly governance issues that might arise during contract execution, as we will see in another course. I mean, with a price cap contract, in fact, price cap contracts will more likely lead to renegotiation and underinvestment issues during the execution stage, cost-plus contracts will be more flexible contracts, leading to overinvestment and efficiency issues.